Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining me on the planet. My name is June Allen, and I am a racial trauma therapist, and I am the founder of the Art of Greatness at juneallen.net. So, happy Friday, everyone. Happy Friday. So, I'm on really early today because I've got my own therapy session later on, and then I'm off to the spa. I need to relax. I need to unwind. It's been a very busy week, and I have to practice what I preach. So I'm off to the spa later. So I'm juggling my day, so that I can get everything in that I need to get in. So today I want to talk to you about exploring your relationship with grind culture. Okay, I want to explore your relationship to grind culture. What are the characteristics of grind culture? Now, the stuff that I'm going to share today is going to be a snippet. Okay, just a snippet of the things that we're going to be talking about in my new business school. Hi, thanks for joining. So, for those of you that don't know anything about my business school that I've been talking about all of this week, next Wednesday I am going to be opening the North Star Business School for therapists and wellness practitioners, and it's going to be a 9 month process. Actually, you can do one term if you want to, but the whole thing is like a 9 month process where I hold your hand and take you through setting up in private practice. So yeah, so the launch is next Wednesday at 1 o'clock London time, 1 till 3. And so the four modules that we're going to be working through are: number one, the autumn term is self care for success, which is why I'm talking about the topics that I've been talking about this week about self care. And particularly today, we're going to be looking at grind culture and your relationship to it. Do you enable it? Have you internalized it? Okay. Term two, which is the winter term, we're going to be talking about money, how to manage your money as a therapist, how to make it easy for clients to pay you, sorting out everything in the back end, all of that good stuff, setting up with HMRC, all of that. Okay, that's the winter term. The spring term, we're going to be talking about client attraction and marketing. So I'm going to be sharing you how to market yourself on social media and stuff like that. Okay, so there's that. And then the fourth one, the final term, the summer term, we're going to be talking about how to maintain your private practice. So I'll be sharing you, the types of things that you need to be doing on a daily basis, how to maintain your private practice, how to keep, seeding your business so that you're continuing to get clients, all of that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in joining me for the business school, which starts next Wednesday, actually, I also have a taster session, which is going to be happening this Sunday at 7 p.m. London time. So you get an idea as to, yeah, I'm just going to give you a taster of how you can experience the sessions. And we're going to be focusing specifically on doing a self care inventory for success. Okay. So it's going to be, we're going to be doing a self-care inventory, but it's going to be specifically within the context of running your own business and as a wellness practitioner and stuff like that. So you'll have an opportunity to look at your circle, look at what you're doing at the moment, what's your self-care like outside, outside of supervision and stuff like that. And also, are you getting the best out of supervision and stuff like that if you're already in private practice? So we're going to be exploring all of those things on Sunday evening. That's this Sunday evening, the 1st of October, 7 p.m. London time. So if you're interested in joining me for the business school, which starts next Wednesday, or for the taster session, which is this Sunday at 7 p.m., you can click the link in my bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. So let's crack on with the content. So for those of you that have just joined, my name is June Allen. I'm a trauma therapist, and I am the founder of the Art of Greatness at juneallen.net. So today I am talking about let's explore your relationship to grind culture. How much of it have you internalized? What exactly is grind culture? How do you know if you're on that hamster wheel, and how does it show up? How does it show up in your behavior? So today I just wanted to give you three different types of characteristics for you to think about when it comes to grind culture, particularly for Black people. Again, there's always an intercultural lens that I always speak through, because it is different for us, because obviously we have to deal with racism and oppression. So grind culture and stuff like that is going to have a different spin for us when we look at these things. Okay, so the first characteristic, okay, is compulsive productivity. Okay, compulsive productivity. This is where you're always on the treadmill, you're always busy doing stuff, and overworking almost becomes like a status symbol. You think it's good that you haven't had any time off work. It's good that you haven't had any, that you've not been off sick. It's good that you know that you're not, you ain't got time. Your team no sleep and all that kind of stuff. You're compulsively always productive, and your identity is rooted in how much have you produced, how much stuff have you ticked off your to-do list, all of that, and there is no space or bandwidth or compassion for you to do anything else. You're constantly on this grind of feeling like you need to always be doing something, because that's where your identity is. That's where your identity is. But the fallout of that is that you're going to get burnt out very quickly. You're going to get burnt out very quickly. And as a wellness practitioner, it's important for us to understand what our limits are. Sometimes I hear, therapists talking about, doing 20, 30 clients a week. I know that I can't do that. I can't do 20, 30 clients a week, because my bandwidth and the fact that I do so much trauma work, I do so much racial trauma work with clients, is that I have to be really careful about where my limits are, because I have to know, because the stuff that that clients share with me, not just about racial trauma, but their own childhood trauma, sexual trauma. There's a lot of things that I hear on a weekly basis from clients, that I need to make sure that I look after myself after I hold space for those clients, because it can be very intense. It can be very intense. And whilst I find it, it's an honor and a privilege that clients feel safe enough to be able to do that work with me, I also need to take care of myself to make sure that I can hold that space for them, on an ongoing basis, so that I'm consistent with the way that I hold space for them. Because the minute that I'm not taking care of myself, and this is what vicarious trauma is. Vicarious trauma is in therapy, it's like secondary trauma is another way of putting it. It's secondary trauma. That means that even though I might not have necessarily been directly impacted, or I haven't been directly traumatized, I can be traumatized by hearing somebody else's story. I can be traumatized by hearing somebody else's story. So I have to take care of myself. I have to make sure that I'm in regular supervision. I have to make sure that I, do my self-care rituals after I've been in session with clients that are talking about their trauma and stuff like that, in order for me to be able to show up and not burn out. Okay? So if we're on this compulsive productivity train, and we keep going, and we're not actually pausing to take care of ourselves, and not really not being aware of how our clients impact on us, then this is a recipe for burnout. This is a recipe for burnout. But this is what grind culture does. Grind culture for us, this is all about it's all about driving it. We become mules to the system. The internalization is that we just treat ourselves like objects. We treat ourselves like mules, particularly as black women. If we're not always doing something, if we're not always busy, if we're not always caping for other people, and this is the second one actually, is compulsive rescuing. As black women, we always feel like we need to be rescuing other people. We always feel like we need to be rescuing other people, again, because we're at the bottom of the ladder, as in terms of work, in terms of how we're valued, and all of that kind of stuff, and because we have obviously the dual oppression of racism, sexism, as well. I suppose there's a part of us that feels that maybe I need to be doing stuff for other people. I need to be caring for other people. I need to be doing the emotional labor that other people need to be doing themselves in order to prove ourselves, in order to have some sort of to feel like we're valued. We do all these things because we feel like we need to be valued. And I often see in the workplace as well, people that work for corporate companies, that this can be something that these corporate companies can use black women. They can use black women to do the dirty work that they're supposed to be doing, instead of them taking responsibility for the racist culture that they have in their organizations. They put it back on black women to do the emotional labor, to teach everybody else about racism, to teach everybody else about oppression. So they don't want to do their own work. So then what happens is the people that end up doing the rescuing for other people, even though it's the company that's supposed to be doing it, the people that end up doing it, often it's voluntarily as well within these companies, they end up getting burnt out. And then what happens is these corporate companies then blame the people. They blame the people that are doing the emotional labor, saying, "Oh well, we tried that and it didn't work, so therefore they've got an excuse then to cop out. They've got an excuse then to cop out, and they can end up gaslighting people, saying, well, it didn't work, this, that, and the other, and they're not going to invest, because what they do is they hoodwink us as black women to make and guilt trip people into believing that we need to be rescuing ourselves, thereby absolving them of the responsibility of doing that. And as therapists, sometimes that can be the case. That can be the case. We end up in situations where, even in our personal lives, we end up thinking that we have to rescue other people, and we get burnt out. So having boundaries as therapists, as wellness practitioners, is really, really important, because you will end up getting dragged into situations, whether it's at work or in your personal life, where people expect you to be caretaking, to be rescuing them, to be doing stuff that you ain't got no business doing, because you're a therapist. People don't always value therapists in our profession. They don't always value they just think we're just sitting there listening to people and just having a chit chat and having a cup of tea. That's not it. The therapy profession is not valued in the way that it should be. And I think it's because it's predominantly, run by women. Because women are predominantly therapists, so it becomes it becomes devalued because women are mostly doing it. So this whole thing about compulsive rescuing, okay, think about that. Think about how that's showing up in your life. Are you one of those people that feels like you need to always be helping other people at the cost of your own well-being? I'm not saying it's not okay to help people and to support people. I get on here and do these live streams. Yes, I do it because, it's a marketing thing, but I also do it because, not everybody's in the same situation in terms of being able to afford therapy, and maybe not everybody can afford it. So I do this as a way to give back to my community. I give this as a way to, to give away a lot of free content to people who are struggling, that might not be able to do it. Everybody's at different stages in their lives, financially and whatever. Everybody's at different stages. So I do these live streams to give back to the community, and also to give people an hope, and to give them an insight as to what's possible for black people in therapy. There's still this stigma around, therapy is just for white people. There are still some people that think that the therapy is just for white people. And that black people ain't got no business doing therapy. The reason why I do the work that I do, and the reason why I've spent so much extra money doing these extra trainings, reading all of these books and all the rest of it, is because, my focus is to bring an intercultural lens to the work that I do. Whether I'm teaching in courses, whether I'm, doing corporate work, or whether I'm doing one-to-ones, or whether I'm doing group work or workshops, or whatever it is I'm doing, I always bring the intercultural lens to it, because as black people living inside the system of racism and oppression, we need to be able to understand. We need to understand and do our healing work through the lens of an intercultural focus, because they don't really teach that in any real great depth at college. They don't teach it in any great depth, and so a lot of the stuff that I'm teaching is stuff that I've learned on top of what I've done in college, and it works. It really, really works. So, again, but I also know what my boundaries are. I also know what my boundaries are around doing this. And, those of you that decide to come and work with me in the North Star Business School will have the opportunity to really understand and explore what your boundaries are when it comes to work, and when it comes to doing your marketing, when it comes to, understanding where your limits are and where you need to say no, and having that work-life balance, and really being not allowing yourself to get dragged into situations where you're doing emotional labor for other people that you ain't got no business doing. You ain't got no business doing. You have to remind yourself when you're working and when you're not working, because sometimes people will think in your personal life they expect you to be your personal therapist, and no, 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 boo, you're not. I'm not your personal therapist. I'm not on the clock. But it's having those boundaries and recognizing that you don't always have to be in your therapist or identity. You don't always have to be helping other people in order to, in order to have a sense of worth about yourself. It's being really clear about when you're in therapist mode and when you're just being yourself. There's a two clear, very very clear boundaries and identities that you need to be aware of in order to maintain your sense of self, and to maintain your self-care. You need to maintain your sense of self-care. Okay, so the last one is breadcrumbing rest. I call it breadcrumb rest. Okay, an internalization of grind culture is when you think that I don't know, I can sleep when I'm dead. I've heard people saying that, team no sleep, I can sleep when I'm dead. You've always got to be grinding, you always got to be hustling, rest is a waste of time. You need to be working you need to be, I remember there was somebody on social media, I forget his name now, this guy that I was following on social media, and he started talking about how, in order to run your own business, you have to just accept that you're not going to get any family time, you're not going to get any you time, you're not going to get a lot of rest, you're not going to get a lot of sleep. And I just unfollowed him, and I just thought, I am not going to. This is that. I thought there was a really dangerous piece of content that he put out there, and there was so much pushback in the comments as well. People were just saying to him that he was insane for saying that, and this guy had thousands of followers. And I just thought, nah, this is not it. This is not it. And the thing is, I think for a lot of us, it's not that. I think it's things like that. It's the financial pressures. It's the worrying about bills going up, the rent is going up, all of this kind of stuff. And these are the things that quite often drive grind our internalization of grind culture, because it's fear as well. It's fear. We're afraid that we're not going to be able to pay our bills. It's coming from a place of survival for a lot of us. And I really, really get that. It's coming from a place of survival. It's like, oh my gosh, I need to get another job. And a lot of us, when I talk to people about grind culture and stuff like that, a lot of people talk about how their parents had, 2 and 3 jobs in order to pay the bills, or they work nights and all that kind of stuff. My dad used to work nights because they get, you get like a bit of extra money when you work nights. A lot of us as black people, we've got multiple jobs, which we're juggling so many different things. We're juggling so many different things to make ends meet. But again, these are short term things. We think in the short term that I need to pay my bills short term, but then we almost have to stay in denial about the long term impact of that, because it will have an impact on our health. It is going to have an impact on our health. So something has to give. Something has to give, and we have to be willing to sit down and look at our self-care first and foremost, and look at our relationship to grind culture, and look at the fear, look at the patterns that have been passed down from our parents. These are all the things that I would be looking at in the first module of the business school, because at the end of the day, if we don't understand our relationship to grind culture, if we don't understand how racism and us being objectified as us being treated as objects, in the system of capitalism and all of that kind of stuff, we don't explore how we've internalized and the impact of living under all of that stuff. It is going to be very, very difficult for us to not kind of drag all of that stuff, all of those patterns, all of those internalized thoughts and feelings and values, those toxic values. All of that stuff is going to play out in how we run our private practice. All of that stuff is going to play out in how we run our private practice. So what's important is that we have an awareness of those things. What's important is that we're able to have conversations with each other about what all of that means. It's important that we have a safe space to be able to talk about the fears, to be able to process the fear, to be able to talk about the poverty trauma. A lot of us were raised in poverty when we were children. A lot of us are still in poverty at the moment. So this is an opportunity for you to sort of build something of your own. But there is going to be fear that comes with all of that. But being in a community space to be able to talk about this stuff, to be able to name what's happening, Yeah, to be able to name what's happening to you, to be able to name the anxiety, what's happening in your body at the same time as well. This is why I talk about the course being trauma informed. People might look at it and go, well, why is she talking about being trauma informed? Why is trauma informed? Why is being trauma informed relevant to doing a course on a business school on how to set up private practice? Because being trauma, by default, as black people, we are already traumatized from living under this system. Okay, living under inside systems of oppression means that we already have experienced some sort of trauma. Okay, so when we think about setting up in business, when we're talking about money, when we're talking about exploring grind culture, when we're talking about poverty, our experiences around all of that kind of stuff, there's quite often, and just talking from experience from what I've worked with clients, quite often all of those conversations come up, but people don't always name it as trauma. They don't always name it as trauma. They just think, oh, well, I had a difficult childhood, and my parents worked and all that kind of stuff. But we don't talk about that within the context of trauma. So being trauma informed about all of those things is an important part of doing the self-care work and building the foundations for your business. Yeah, doing the trauma informed work, understanding your trauma around money and work and grind culture. All of that stuff is really, really important in order for you to have an awareness and understanding of what you've internalized around all of that stuff and what that means for you going forward. So, if you're in the business school, we will have an opportunity to explore all of that. We'll have an opportunity for you to look at, and grieve as well. Grieve all of the stuff that you didn't get. Grieve the difficult conversations. Maybe that your parents were in debt. Maybe you didn't. There's just so much to unpack. There's so much to unpack around this sort of stuff. But in the business school, you will have an opportunity to really look at that stuff and how, and talk about how the patterns that you've learned from your parents, the stuff that you've learned from society, the stuff that you've internalized as a black woman. Have a look at how all of that stuff it has set the ground rules for your core beliefs in this present moment today around work and stuff like that, and what you need to do moving forward. What tools can we use moving forward? So this is another reason why I decided to do the course over 9 months. Actually, I could have quite easily have done a shorter version of this, but I just thought, what, if I'm really going to create change, if I'm really going to commit to really holding attendees' hands, while they walk through these early months of setting up in private practice, I really wanted to do it over a longer period of time, so that it gives people an opportunity to really do the inner work. I didn't just want to kind of get in and do, again, this sense of urgency and doing things quickly, again, is all part of, it's all part of internalized grind culture. It's all would have been part of my internalized grind culture. It's kind of get in, get out, get it done quickly, bish, bash, bosh, done. I didn't want that. I didn't want to be able to. I don't want to deliver a service that is going to that is just over as quickly as it's begun. I didn't just want to deliver the practical tips. I want to deliver to give you an awareness around what's happening in your body as you take the baby steps around the practical things. I want you to be able to understand what's happening in your body. Let's talk about the anxiety. Let's talk about the fear of success. Let's talk about how difficult it is to speak and to ask for your needs to get met, to ask for the sale. Let's talk about what it means to work through the fear of technology and doing things for the first time. Let's talk about having the uncomfortable conversations with clients, that may be challenging. Let's have the uncomfortable money conversations. Let's talk about why having money conversations is so difficult for us as black people, because we're so, we have so much unworthiness around receiving. Let's have all those uncomfortable conversations. And these are the types of things that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be exploring, that we're going to be unpacking, that we're going to be letting go of. We're going to be letting go of I'm going to be teaching you how to, or creating a space for you to really learn how to let go of those things, so that you can thrive in your private practice, so that you can thrive in your wellness business. Okay, so if you are a newly qualified student, that's looking to set up in private practice. Maybe you've been qualified for a time and you're thinking about setting up in private practice after a while, and you want to know how to do that. Maybe you're not a therapist, but you're a well-being practitioner. Maybe you're a diversity and inclusion person that really wants to set up and understand how to do this work, and actually learn how to take care of yourself while you're setting up in business, while you're setting up your own practice. If you're any of those people, if you're a wellness practitioner, this course, this 9-month experience is going to be for you. If you've been in business for a while but you just need a reset, it might be that you just want to do one or two terms. You'll have the opportunity to also do that. But if anything that I've said today has resonated with you, or somebody that where that's interested, that might be interested in what I'm doing, please share it with them. You can find more details. You can get more of a breakdown as to what I'm going to be doing each term, how much it costs, all of that kind of stuff. You can click the link in my bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. So that's it for today, okay? So if there's anything at all that you want me to, any questions that you have about anything that I've shared today, you can drop a note in the comments, or you can send me a DM, or you can email me info@yardofgreatness.com, okay? And hopefully, again, don't forget about the taster session I'm going to be doing on Sunday evening, 7 p.m. London time, when I'm going to be showing you as a wellness practitioner how to do a self-care for success inventory. Okay. Again, yeah, just click the link in my bio and you can find all of the details there. All right. Have an amazing day. Have an amazing weekend, and I will see you next time. All right. Take care. Bye now.